Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is Ash Quest, and today we unbox and present the Pit Fighter from Warhammer Quest. The Pit Fighter is a Warhammer Quest character expansion, akin to the hero collections or hero expansions of Hero Quest. Pit Fighter retailed for $14.99 USD and was of course made by Games Workshop, sculpted by Gitadel Miniatures for the classic 1995 edition of Warhammer Quest. Of course, I got this used specimen from eBay, but I plan to read its contents verbatim and talk about this particular hero. Pit fighters are brutal warriors trained by years of bitter and bloody fighting for their lords and masters. Those few who win their freedom often put their battle skills to use searching for the lost treasures of the old world. In this pack, you will find everything you need to play a pit fighter in the Warhammer Quest game, including a rulebook, cards, counters, and a specially crafted pit fighter Gitadel miniature. Without further ado, we will unbox this, but first, a look at the product code and UPC for those who need it. This goes right along with my first two, packed by 35. Thank you, 35. I salute you wherever you are today. First two character expansions that I got. The Chaos Warrior, because of course that had to be my very first acquisition, and the Witch Hunter, which would have been my first acquisition if not for the fact that there's an awesome Chaos Warrior hero. This was supplied unpainted, but being used, it looks like the previous owner started to try their hand at painting him. We've got some skin tones on there, but nothing else. Perhaps that's something that I can finish up. I don't mind having the heroes of Warhammer Quest painted. Actually, as far as Warhammer Quest goes, I don't mind having the whole thing painted. He comes with his counter, and the counters are used to place into a bag or a bowl or anything really that you can stick your hand in and take one of the random element out. This will help when it's time to distribute enemies and you've got the odd enemy out, things like that. He comes with his equipment and his character sheet and his rulebook, which these characters can be quite complex because there are different kinds of games that you can play, different game modes of Warhammer Quest. So the rulebook is covering all of them here. This is a well thought out, balanced, and designed character that has depth depending on which game mode you are playing. First, the Pit Flail. While he uses the Pit Flail, the Pit Fighter is at +2 strength, so he does 1d6 plus 5 damage. However, if he rolls a 1 when using the flail, he hits himself instead. The good old trade-offs of Warhammer Quest equipment. Just to put that into a little bit of context, this is the Pit Fighter's character card. He has 1d6 plus 8 wounds when you roll him. He moves 4, pretty much like every Warhammer Quest hero. His weapon skill is 3, and his ballistic skill is 6+. His strength is 3, and his toughness is 3. It's actually 4 because of the armor that he has. If he didn't have the armor, we'd be at a 3. It's the whole Hero Quest problem, really. His initiative is 3, and he gets 1 attack. His equipment consists of a Heal It potion, which we can go ahead and read off now. This fiery, foul-tasting liquid is used by pit fighters to replenish their strength for the next bout of fighting. I have a personal hypothesis that the Heal It potion is really just a bottle of Mountain Dew. Not even Red Bull, just straight up vanilla Mountain Dew. Not vanilla flavored, but, basic. Vanilla Mountain Dew. Would that be good? What was I talking about? If the pit fighter drinks this potion, he will be cured of 1d6 wounds. However, if the dice comes up as a 1, the potion has run out. If another warrior drinks the potion, he will be cured of 1d6 wounds, and the potion will run out if the dice roll is a 1 or a 2. Kind of able to continue drinking this ad infinitum as long as you don't roll a 1 and as long as your fellow hero who's taking a sip out of your bottle doesn't roll a 1 or a 2. In the event of a 1, it's out. In the event of a 2, you discover your fellow fighter was eating Cheetos and had a little bit of Cheeto backwash in the Mountain Dew bottle, and you're like, I'm good, fam. You can keep it. The pit fighter's weapon is the Fist Spike, which causes 1d6 plus 3 wounds. See the back of this card for details. The Pit Fighter also has a Pit Flail, which causes 1d6 plus 5 wounds. See the Pit Flail equipment card for details. The Fist Spike doesn't have its own card. It's just on the back of this card. That's where its details lie. At the start of each turn, the Pit Fighter must declare whether he is using the Fist Spike or the Pit Flail. He cannot use both in the same turn. His armor is Pit Armor, giving him +1 toughness and explaining the 4 in parenthesis above. And for pinning, the Pit Fighter escapes from pinning on a roll of 5+. There are special rules in the back of the card, and here is the Pit Fighter's 2-hit foe chart, depending on the enemy's weapon skill. The Pit Fighter's special rules are as follows. The Pit Fighter's training allows him to react very quickly. Whenever an unexpected event causes monsters to appear, roll a d6 just after the monsters have been placed. If the dice roll is a 1, the Pit Fighter becomes confused and may do nothing in the next warrior's phase. This is a mandatory roll, which means your Pit Fighter always has the chance to be confused when monsters appear. My training allows me to react very quickly.
Skaven in the dungeon?
On a roll of 2 to 4, nothing occurs to the pit fighter, and the warriors must fight the monsters as normal. But on a roll of 5 to 6, which is a 33% chance roll, the pit fighter remembers a special move and may immediately move and attack just as if it were the warrior's phase, bearing in mind all the special rules for pinning and etc. He may still act normally in the next warrior's phase. 33% chance to get basically an extra turn just for this hero. That includes the death blow and everything else. If the pit fighter is standing in the fighting pit, he will only fail to react on a roll of 1, in which case he is confused as above. This more or less explicitly states that if you roll anything here, it will have the result of the 5 to 6 roll if the pit fighter is standing in the fighting pit, which is especially Ventile. But of course, will still fail to react on a roll of 1. The Fist Spike. The Fist Spike gives the pit fighter 2 extra attacks, but he doesn't get to make death blows. If a pit fighter kills a monster with his Fist Spike, he may step into the square it occupied and continue his attacks from there. The rules for pinning do not apply for this special move. So there you have it. That's pretty cool. He'll attack a monster with the Fist Spike, and if the monster dies, you'll be able to move into that monster's spot and attack another monster again. Or you can stay where you're at if you are surrounded by more than one monster to begin with, and attack another monster as a second attack. And then because the Fist Spike gives you 2 extra attacks, you'll be able to do it to a third monster or move into the second monster space and attack a third monster. I would definitely allow a player to step into a monster space if it's the last monster he kills, because this doesn't say that he can't do it, but I could see the interpretation going the other way as well. You're stepping into the space because you killed the monster, even if you can't continue your attacks from there, because you could continue your attacks in the next turn, the next warrior's phase. And so a quick look at the rulebook for this guy, and to be completely honest with you, the rulebooks are what pretty much make the price point for me. Okay, I didn't pay $14.99 USD for this. I paid almost 10 times the amount, but if we wind back the clock and we pretend that the $14.99 is today's prices, which I guess adjusted for inflation would be 30 USD, this special rulebook would make the value of this hero that much greater, in my opinion. More so, really, than the nice cardstock materials here, because this is what really has the love and care put into it. This is so much more than just a set of 3 ability cards, and I'm not necessarily knocking hero expansions that just come with the hero and a few ability cards and maybe 1 or 2 equipment cards in the hero card. But I am saying that this sort of thing requires a lot of design process to create, not just because of the physical component, but because of all of the rules mechanics within it. Warhammer Quest is really not that complex of a game, but there's a lot to it if you'd like there to be. Across the old world, there are many pastimes and sports, and one of the most popular events is the gladiatorial pit fight. Many local laws ban pit fighting, but the culture remains a haven for ex-mercenaries, escaped convicts, and itinerant conmen. When a pit fight takes place, it can range from a highly organized gala in a large arena to a small fist fight in an old barn. The combatants are usually slaves who work the circuit, earning their freedom by paying off their managers with a large cut of the winnings. By the time most pit fighters are free men, they are so physically and mentally scarred that they don't wish to leave the sport, as they can find no position in normal society. There are many reasons why a pit fighter may exchange his current career for the life of an adventurer. The culture of the fighting pit means that there are many alleged and real scandals, arrests, and much notoriety. This is setting your character up to be able to enter the old world as an adventurer with other adventurers and plunge into the darkness of dangerous dungeons with a roleplay backstory. Something that I really love about Warhammer Quest. You can think up your own reasons for leaving the pit fighting circuit, or you may like the other players to write down suggestions for you, and then take one at random. If you can't think of a suitable motive for setting off on a career or adventuring, roll a d6 on the following table. You may decide that you want your past kept secret, so don't tell anybody you cannot trust. As an escaped pit fighter, you are a hunted man, constantly wary of places where you might one day be recognized. You wish to settle your debt with your ex-master or his business partners using the treasure you acquire during your exploits. So we will roll a d6 hypothetically, and we've come up with a 3, and therefore our result, our backstory, is vendetta. Before fleeing from your master, you kill a rival pit fighter in a match that had a large sum of money riding on it. Unfortunately, it was your master's money. He had been betting for you to lose. That explains our backstory and why we had to escape that dangerous lifestyle. This pack contains everything you need to introduce a new warrior to your games of Warhammer Quest, including his warrior card, counter cards, a rulebook, and a Citadel miniature to represent the warrior himself. This rulebook is split into 3 sections, a basic Warhammer Quest section, an advanced section, and a roleplay section, much like the actual rulebooks of Warhammer Quest. 3 modes of play. I just wanted to point out that whenever a book that's produced by Games Workshop refers to miniatures, they never refer to just miniatures. It's always a Citadel miniature. It's like referring to a Marine. Citadel miniatures is like the Marines of miniature making in this time period. And I don't really think anybody would disagree. Ralpartha is respectable, but Citadel sits king. I suppose that could be controversial. Feel free to disagree in the comments below, but if you do, give me some reason. Give me some actual examples of great sculpts that are non-Citadel. I know there are many out there, but cite them. The Warhammer Quest rules contain all the rules for using this warrior in your games. The advanced rulebook covers all the rules for the progression of the warrior through the battle levels, including any spells, skills, or special rules. And the final section gives rules guides for using the new warrior with the roleplay rules. So of course you can replace one of your existing warriors with this pit fighter, or you can add him to your group, having a group of 5 or 6 as long as you adjust the enemies that appear appropriately. This is rules as written, by the way, not just a suggestion from Ash. You've got your pit fighter starting stats in case you ever lose your character card. Weapons, armor, special rules, that's all here. Something in the advanced rules that I want to talk about. As we've more or less covered everything there is to cover in the most basic form of Warhammer Quest playing, which most people will move on to the advanced rules after a few rounds of that, I believe, because it is pretty much a simplistic gameplay loop. The meat of Warhammer Quest, in my opinion, lies in its advanced rules. Those who want to play the roleplay rules are really delving into the deepest, farthest reaches, and those are the advanced players who are taking the fullest advantage of the game. But roleplay isn't for everybody, and so I can think that people who just want to indulge themselves into the advanced mechanics of a game they've had to play over and over again, kind of like inundating Hero Quest with 5 or 6 different kinds of homebrew stuff all at once, would make sense. And so for the majority of players, I would think these advanced rules will stand. As a professional fighter, a pit fighter finds it hard to turn down a challenge. If your character rolls an event that leads to physical conflict, such as the duel, then he must accept. He may not try to pay his way out or walk away. Pit armor covers only a portion of the pit fighter's body. I couldn't tell. He looks pretty well covered to me. Ladies, this is your revenge for the practical armor that we usually have female characters wearing. This is the equivalent of the chainmail bikini, I believe. Who am I kidding? No ladies are watching this channel. If you're a lady, please comment down below. Certainly, absolutely nothing bad could come of that. If you're a lady, like the video. I'll keep all the non-ladies from liking the video, of which my viewership, according to YouTube, that's over 99%. Wonder why? I guess I need to show more of this. Johnny Bravo. There are 5 locations to cover. Head, legs, body, left arm, and right arm. I mean, 6 locations, but I guess the pit armor covers that 6th location well enough. The armor you start with covers your body. Whenever a monster hits you, look up its 2-hit roll on the table below. If you have pit armor on the location indicated, you may add its armor value to your toughness. If that location is not armored, you receive no extra protection. You may buy extra pieces of pit armor from the fighting school armory. If you do so, you should make a note of which part of the pit fighter's body the armor covers. For example, Grund Headcrusher has pit armor on his body and his right arm. A monster hit him with 2-hit rolls of 4, 5, and 6. His pit armor counts against the 4 and the 6, right arm and body, but not against the roll of 5, his legs. The advanced debt rule. When you fled from your home, you still had a large sum of money to pay to your ex-master. Since he has invested a considerable amount of time and money in your career, he is anxious to get it back. To work out how much money you owe, roll a d6 and consult the following table. Note this down on your adventure record sheet. You may pay off your debt in part or in whole whenever you visit the fighting school. Simply deduct the amount from your gold total and cross it off the amount you still owe. Once you have paid off your entire debt, you are safe from any reprisal from your ex-master, or any reprisal your ex-master may attempt, but still must roll on the table to see if an admiring fan spots you. And that should roll nicely into the next spot, uneventful days. Whenever you arrive at a settlement, there's a chance that somebody recognizes you. Whenever you have an uneventful day in a settlement, roll a d6 and look up the result in the chart below. Instead of reading out all of the results, we will roll an imaginary die, and I got a 1. 1. You spot an employee of your ex-master who also notices you. If you have any debt outstanding, he will fetch his master. Roll a d6 and add your initiative. If you manage to score an 8 or more, you avoid them, though you may do nothing for the next day while you are hiding out. If you fail, then apply result 13 from the fighting school table. See over the page. We go on into pit fighters in combat, pit fighters in settlements, fighting school, the armory, pit fighters and training, pit fighters skills, and the roleplay guidelines. We have a wonderful flavor text story that is told in the very back to really give you the feel of the roleplay aspect of the pit fighter, but the roleplay guidelines are short and sweet, and so I'll read them. Pit fighters are brusque and straightforward, preferring to tackle problems and enemies head on. Their strength can be considerable, especially if they train hard in this direction. Because of their particular method of training, it is hard to generalize what actions a pit fighter will be good at. Some pit fighters rely on speed and skill, while others bull their way through an adventure using their immense strength and iron constitution to survive. Whatever inclination a pit fighter has to his martial prowess, they all excel in physical tasks and feel threatened by problems of a more intellectual nature. Like barbarians, their instincts are well honed in certain directions, but they have few insights into abstract concepts and have no aptitude for problems that require a logical examination. Pit fighters are used to fighting alone, and although some pit fights do use teams, a pit fighter is a loner at heart. They are stubborn to the point of bloody-mindedness, and once they get an idea into their heads, it is hard to convince a pit fighter otherwise. Pit fighters form a strong bond of friendship with those they accompany. The trials and ordeals of the fighting pits means you have to make good friends. Some other warriors may find this common familiarity uncomfortable, especially warriors of another race. And that is my unboxing and overview of the pit fighter. There's a lot in here that I did skip over in the advanced rules. It seems it is slightly easier to find a fighting school where a pit fighter, barbarian, troll slayer, chaos warrior, or dwarf can visit. It's a special location, but you can find one on a roll of 6+ instead of a roll of 7+. If you find a fighting school, roll 2d6 and consult the following table. A pit fighter must add +1 to this roll, so your overall roll result can be between 2 and 13. If you're a pit fighter, 3 and 13. We'll roll our 2d6, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's going to be 7. The extra training that you gain improves your fighting prowess and increases your endurance. You may add +1 to your wounds total permanently. You don't even have to pay any money. You just earn +1 to your wounds total. Now it's Warhammer Quest, so there are plenty of chances to get this wrong and to debuff your warriors in ways, or buff them but with a costly trade-off. But all in all, this is a character that I would be more than happy to introduce into my games of Warhammer Quest. What do you think about the pit fighter? Hubba hubba. Not like that. About his mechanics, about the advanced rules, about the pieces of armor on the body that cover different things, about the training school. Does this character reward us for being as offensive as possible? Not because of our drinking Mountain Dew and backwashing Cheetos into our friends' drinks, but running headlong into battle and taking on threats as a lone wolf. I'd be interested to hear your version of the pit fighter in Hero Quest or whatever game that you're playing. Let me know how this might inspire your homebrew. Or if you are currently using or have used a pit fighter, what was your experience like? That's all for today. I thank you very much for watching, brave heroes. Until next time, have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.